Hi, my name is Maura Willett, 3 Summerfair Street. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. As most of you know, I have been very outspoken in recent years regarding what I feel is the mismanagement of the Hooksett Police Department under Chief Agrafiotis. And unfortunately, tonight will be no exception. I would like to speak about the substantial pay raise that the Police Department command staff recently received. While I'm certain many of you are probably already aware of this, I am speaking tonight to be certain that it is on the record. On July 1, 2009, all non-union personnel of the Police Department were given a 2.5% increase, which fell within the range that was overseen by the Town Council, the Budget Committee, and ultimately approved by the Hooksett voters. On January 4, 2010, the Police Commission held a non-public meeting with Chief Agrafiotis and granted the Chief, the 2 captains, and 1 lieutenant their second pay raise for this fiscal year, which began their next pay period. The combined totals break down to the following. The Chief's increase represented a 9.59% total increase. 1 captain's increase represented an 11.76% increase. The other captain's increase represented a 12.70% increase, and the lieutenant's increase represented a 10.12% increase. I think now you can see why I'm here and why I attended the Police Commission meeting last night to address this issue. In these tough economic times, this reckless spending occurred with no consideration to the struggling taxpayer, many of whom are desperately trying to keep food on the table, and in some instances, trying to keep their homes. This increase was never presented to the Town Council, the Budget Committee, and most importantly, the taxpayer was not granted the opportunity to approve or disapprove this. The Commission will tell you it's a bottom line budget, and they have the authority to do what they see fit with the budget. While this may be technically accurate, it's not morally acceptable to me. The school teachers in town agreed to a freeze, which means for them, no COLAs and no step increases for next year. When I asked the principals what they would be receiving next year for an increase, I was told, since the teachers were not getting a raise, they could not in good conscience receive one either. The Budget Committee recently voted not to recommend a 2% increase for all town employees, citing this was no reflection on their job performance, we're just in tough economic times. I would certainly be the first one to tell you that given all the turmoil within the police department and the mass exodus of officers that we are currently experiencing, no raises should be awarded to the command staff. They are currently funded for 28 officers and are presently down to 23 certified officers. The last 2 that have left were supervisors. The Chief is quick to blame the high turnover on officers leaving to make more money in other agencies, or they were about to be fired, and his latest excuse, they had mental issues. I do not believe the claims of officers leaving for higher pay, as they have personally told me this. If in fact the Chief does truly believe his statement and was interested in the betterment of the department, I would think he would be in front of the Commission arguing a case for more pay for the patrol officers, not himself. Ironically, the patrol officers have just negotiated a new 1-year contract for a 1.5% increase. This 1.5% increase will be scrutinized by the Council and the Budget Committee and ultimately the taxpayer, and unfortunately I fear will not survive. Again, not based on job performance, just a bad economy. Although I realize your limited jurisdiction over the Police Commission, I would appreciate your consideration into this troubling matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Voters, these pay raises are absolutely an insult and outrageous, and we need to address them. It's my hope, even if we have to have a special meeting, we hold a special meeting, and we take this money out of the budget, out of the police department budget. This is an outrage, an insult to the taxpayers of the town of Hooksett.
Absolutely. I think if you could hold, we'll go right under new business. I think that was part of.
Well, I have a whole scenario.
Okay, so we'll definitely discuss it, and we'll try to work through what we need to. I appreciate that. That's 24, and this has to do with the Police Commission wage adjustment. So I will turn it over to Mr. Cipolla because he requested it to be added.
All right. First of all, I am extremely upset that the Commission gave those pay raises to the upper management of the police department, and they did it in the shadows of darkness through a non-public session. So if Mr. Michael didn't happen to see a little blur, we probably never would have known about this. I'd like to, first of all, go to the letter from Town Council dated January 13th, 2010, addressed to Carol. In the back page, page number 2, line number 3. Roman numeral number 3, I'm sorry. It says, fix the compensation of all members of the police department within the limits of the funds appropriated. Does that mean, and maybe, Chris, you may want to step up here. Does that mean that the funds appropriated, is that the funds just for the salary line, or is that the funds for this bottom line budget?
Were you referring to the letter from the attorney?
Yes.
And what portion of it?
It's Roman numeral number 3. I believe it's page 2. It's in the back here, Kathy.
Those are the duties of the police commission, not the
That's right.
council, right?
That's right. The police commission fixes the salaries for the police department.
Correct.
It says here the limits of the funds appropriated. Does that mean salary line appropriation, or does that mean the bottom line appropriation of every line item that's on the budget? And if we don't know the answer, can we get a legal opinion on that one?
I can ask for clarification. It appears it means salary, but I can confirm that with it.
Now, Chris, the salary line item for the police department, several years ago, a warrant article was proposed to add police officers to the police department. The town voted on that. The town voted to add police officers to the police department. That has never occurred. Does that money go into the budget every year? It doesn't. That money came out of the budget.
So each year after that, the budget was prepared through its process. So the police commission prepared the budget, it was presented to council, council made some adjustments, then that was moved on to the budget committee made adjustments, and then that would be what presented on the warrant. So just because the voters voted in those extra officers in that 1 year, over time, it's been adjusted so that they don't have those, you know, I think it was 29.
28.
Right.
So there's no extra money in that salary line to pay for additional police officers that the town had approved.
Well, I guess the approval was for a total of 29.
Right.
28.
And through the years, this budget that's presented, or this budget that we're working in has 28 budgeted.
27.
Okay.
27, sorry.
All right, that's 27.
We're working in is 28.
That we're working in right now is
That's
28, and the new one is 27.
And the new one that's in front of Budget Committee for next year has 27.
Okay, so now, there's excess money in there for those approved officers through a warrant article. How long does a warrant article last? Does it last indefinitely? I mean, can this go on for 30, 40, 50 years that additional money is put into the budget for police officers that the town approved police officers, not salary increases? There should be money in there for police officers, and the money just stays there. Does he get to use that money and never appoint new police officers? How long does a warrant article go for? That's another legal question I have.
I think what's been indicated, though, those funds that were budgeted for the total 29 aren't in the budget now. There's only
27.
27.
We don't have 27, though. We have 23.
23.
So there's excess money in there. The 27 came out of, apparently, a warrant article prior to that.
No, last year there were 28. This year, in looking at the positions, they eliminated one, I believe, and ended up with a total of 27. So they budgeted for 27. They currently have 23 filled. They did a recruitment, so anticipating they would hire the additional 4.
Okay, so but does a warrant article that the town approves, does that go forever, or is there a reasonable amount of time where it's not put into effect that those salaries or those dollars go back to the town?
Christine.
So the warrant article was for 1 year. After that year, they went through the budget process for adopting as many officers as they needed. They've never gotten to that 29 because they can't, I'm not sure why they don't choose to budget for 29, but they've never budgeted for 29 other than that, maybe that first year in which the warrant passed. So the warrant article is a done deal. That just was back then when they wanted to add staff, they went to the community and said, can we add 4 more officers or however many officers at the time. So that's done. After that, every year it goes through the budget process.
So it's a one-year question.
It's a 1 year.
One second.
Just for clarification, when the warrant article went through to increase the police department to 29 officers, and it's approved by the town, all that does is set the level of number of officers you cannot have 30. You can only have 29. You can have 28, 26, whatever, but you cannot have more than what the warrant article approved. Just put the cap.
Okay, and so someone did a study, I'm gathering, someone did a study down at the police department, and it came up that that our police upper management was paid less than somewhere else. I have questions to them, like who did the study? Was it the chief that did the study? Was it someone involved in the pay raise that did the study? What towns did they study? I would like to have Liz, Mr. Chair, gather information for us, for this board, so that we can maybe study ourselves the amount of pay for light police departments, very similar to ours, Exeter, maybe Epping, someone like that, so we can compare, are we paying too much money? The salary of the police chief, and I'm just taking the chief because I know this, is more money than the chief of Manchester. And he has 250 men department plus a civilian staff of probably 75. What did I do wrong?
Now, I was just going to say, based on the authority of the police commission, they deal with hiring and compensation, so the council really doesn't have any role in that. They can ask information, but it's the police commission who sets all of that.
Now, I'm starting to get the feeling that maybe the idea of abolishing the police commission isn't such a bad idea.
Let me
Okay, go somewhere else. I'll go back.
Well, for the sake of tonight's discussion, some of you may or may not be aware of this, but if you recall, we did have a meeting with our legal, right? And the legal came in and gave us some advice on what our jurisdiction is and what we can or cannot do or advise, all right? Because of that discussion that we had, what I asked Carol to do is draft a letter and ask the police commission to come in and speak with us. They've been given the letter that we were given by our legal counsel, and we're going to come in and we're going to discuss with them various different issues such that might be on your mind, and suggestions that we could highly recommend that we would hope that the commission would go back on our behalf and begin discussion on those things. Things like we've discussed exit interviews, things like what are the couple others that off the top of my head I'm trying to think. Purchases was another issue that we had. So we now find out that we have a legal way to make those suggestions so that we could ask the commission to carry out our our wishes. So that's what we have them coming in on hopefully the 10th?
March 10th.
March the 10th. And I think that...
Is that the chief and the commission?
No, we just want the commission to come in. So we've invited the commission. And because we want to deal directly with the commission at this point, our discussion should be centered around what we would like the commission to do and our wishes, what would be followed through. So one of the things, I'll get right to you, Councilor. One of the things that I'd like you to do, and I was going to save this for later on tonight, is what I'd like you to be thinking about is what are some of those things, if you had a wish list of what you would like the commission to do on our behalf, such as the examples I gave before, or any other examples that you might have within the realms of the document that we've received, then I would ask you to put that together and be prepared to discuss that on March the 10th. Okay? With that said, I'll defer to Councilor Booth.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would like to start off by saying that in whatever communication we send to the police commission, and I'm hoping that my fellow councils will agree with this, that we request that they suspend these pay raises until they come before the council and defend why they think 12, 10, and 13% pay raises in light of today's difficult economic times. We need to hear that from them. Secondly, I wanted to ask this question. Under section 5.5.2 of the Hooksett Administrative Code, it says that departments are authorized to make purchases of $2,000 or less without additional approval. Now, I would argue to my counselors, sorry about that, I would argue to my counselors that if you take the total amount of money for a pay raise, that's an expenditure. That's an obligation, although that obligation is spread out over 52 weeks or 26 weeks, whatever the pay periods are. That's an expenditure of over $2,000. And therefore, I think, under the administrative code, they have to get the town administrator's approval for that. And for the town administrator to give that approval, collectively, it's over $15,000. She needs to come to the council to get that approved.
That applies to purchases.
It's a purchase of personnel services, in my point.
I don't know that it would be interpreted that way.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, and one of the things that I think is on the agenda for that discussion, you asked two questions. I think it's easy to us, if it's the council's wishes and you're approving, then we can draft a letter to the commission asking the commission to...
I'll make that as a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second by Council Pizzatola. Any other?
Motion to suspend?
A motion to send a letter to suspend the pay raises until they come before us to discuss. Councilor Dixon.
What if the raises are already taking place?
Yeah.
This happened in
January 1st.
Stop it right in its tracks.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Councilor Ross and Councilor Danforth.
Yeah, I just, again, I'm going to refer to administrative code as well. Perhaps I've missed something here. But the definition in here contradicts other definitions we've seen as to what the police commission's authorities are to appoint and remove police personnel as necessary while making enforcing unnecessary.
Councilor Ross, into the mic, please.
I'm sorry. Police commission appointed and remove police personnel as necessary while making and enforcing all necessary rules for the orderly running of the department. Nothing about disbursement of funds is mentioned here. And then in what we have here as far as the duties of the Hooksett Police Commission set forth in 1975 New Hampshire laws 412:2, that they can appoint constables, police chiefs, superior, other officers as deemed necessary within the funds appropriated. So now the funds appropriation occurs here at the council, I believe. And so that is where our authority currently appears to be with the Hooksett Police Commission. So for us to encourage them to comply with our wishes with these changes in the pay raises, et cetera, I think would be best served by limiting the funds we appropriate to the police commission. In other words, we can remove money from their appropriations for the budget year. Well, that's up to them, and currently that's the authority we've given them. And I will concur with Councilor Pizzatola that perhaps that it might be time to abolish the police commission and bring it back as another department within the town that the council now oversees completely. Because it appears to me that we created a layer back in whenever it was this was begun, and according to this, we do have the authority to abolish it. At the behest of the voters, of course. It has to go to the warrant article, and we're running out of time for that. But maybe it's time.
Councilor Vanscoy, you had your hand up.
Well, I mean, one of the things I try to do is respect those like myself who volunteer or almost volunteer to sit on boards and committees. And I do think we have a police commission, and we have 3 good police commissioners. I mean, most of them have volunteered for the town for years. We owe them the respect to hear why they made this decision. And, you know, just like so many times, if we make these rash decisions because of our emotions, and I know the raises seem ridiculous, but we had 3 people who we've said, this is your role, make these decisions, and they made the decision. I certainly don't feel comfortable asking anybody to abolish a pay raise that they felt was necessary. They're there. We often hear about that. You know, we listen to staff reports. We go to Dale for information about what to do with the roads. We go to Joanne for information about the master plan. That is what our police commission is there for. You know, I can't see why the raises are there. I don't necessarily. I mean, I didn't get a raise like that. But at the same time, these are the people who have been given that role, and I hope they take that role as dear and near and dear and important as I take this one. And with that respect, I think we owe them to hear from them before we act rashly. Thank you.
Well,
With all the problems of the police department, alleged problems in the police department, I would hope that the commissioners would sit down and try to resolve, find truth, and bring the police department back into a well-working department. Rather than going out and giving out pay raises and punching every citizen in the face and saying, we're paying this money and you can't do anything about it. It's just not conceivable that people would get a pay raise of 10% when people are hurting and can't make payments and pay their bills. I would just hope that they would have been doing their job to find out the truth of the police department and come back and tell us the truth. And then maybe down the road, they want to get pay raises out, we can understand something a little bit better. But just to go out and do that, that's just stopping us, the council, every taxpayer in the town, telling them, we're going to do what we want, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. There's no justification for a pay raise like this. None whatsoever.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just take exception with the notion that the motion is made out of rashness or emotion. We've got over 50,000 people in the state out of work, and it's totally irresponsible. I do want to hear their justification for it, but the taxpayers of this town want us to do something about it, and something that we can do about it, at least for now, is ask them to suspend those pay raises until they come in and justify why. And boy, they better have some good reasons.
thank you. Anyone else? Council.
If I understand it correctly, this will be the letter requesting.
The mic, Mr. Loizao.
I understand correctly what we're asking. We're going to submit a letter requesting they suspend.
Correct.
Okay, and in that letter, I would like to see a request to respond to the letter.
I think, Carol, you're captain, correct? Please.
The only other thing I guess I would like included in the letter, if others would agree, is we do have conflicting numbers, and the numbers we're getting, I guess I'd like to know what the pay raises were and what the percentages were. And that would be my request, so that we make sure we do have accurate numbers. Thank you.
Well, Mike, one last time.
One last thing.
All right.
Carol, going back to that same letter again, I mentioned Roman numeral number 3, when you contact council for clarification.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, point of order. We have a motion on the table. Can we dispense with that motion before we continue the discussion?
I'm sorry, I thought it was pertaining to the motion.
You're not going to take my turn away, are you?
No. Okay, so on the motion, is there any other discussion?
Can we reiterate the motion?
Can you read it back, please, Evelyn?
Yes, the motion is to send a letter to suspend the pay raises until the police commission comes before the council and justify the raises.
Okay, I think the word request is missing on there.
Yeah, the word request.
To request.
And if I may suggest, in addition to that, I think that might be a very good thing to have all that we're going to want to know about at the time, and that they should bring a copy of their proposed budget for this upcoming year. But just so that they have it. In other words, if we're going to start looking into it, and if we find a need to exercise our authority as far as appropriations, then we need to have, I think it would be good to have that budget in hand. We have a copy of the latest, right? So we'll just, it's in the budget book.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take a roll on this, please. If you would, Nancy.
I don't remember who's first, so I'm just going to start at the
Fire
beginning
ahead.
again. Councilor Ross?
Aye.
Councilor Van Scoy? Aye. Councilor Booton?
Yes.
Councilor Dixon?
Aye.
Councilor Gorton?
Aye.
Councilor Loizell?
Aye.
Councilor Piscatella?
Yes.
And Chairman Gahar.
Aye.
That's all 8 in approval.
Okay, thank you. Mike.
Carol, turning back to that page 2, Roman numeral number 3, of that letter from council. If you go down to the last paragraph, a big paragraph in regards to the budget issues, I read that thing like 20 times, and it's definitely in legal terminology because I can't understand what it means. Could you ask them to simplify that? Because I'm hoping it means that they don't have the power and authority they think they have. So can you ask them to simplify that for me, or for me?
I will do that.
Let someone can explain it to me.
Councilor.
A point of inquiry, Mr. Chairman. Given where the process is now, we have done our work with the budget. The budget is now in the hands of the Budget Committee. Does it come back to us for one last vote? No, it does not. Okay, so then the only thing then left to us is to then have a motion on the floor at the deliberative session to reduce the budget commensurate with the increases.
April 3rd, yeah.
Okay.
And you could even further make that also with regards to removing that money for those raises and ask to not have those raises be done as well.
So
in that from the floor.
that can be done from before. Now, is that, can that be a motion made by a counselor?
I would think you could make it as a counselor if you go to the floor and do it and become an ordinary person at that point.
All right.
So in other words, take off your counselor hat.
Well, I'm hearing whispers from Councilor Loizell that maybe that can't be done. Can we find out exactly what we can?
I'll check what the process is if you
thank
want
you.
an amendment.
The last reminder I will ask is what I asked originally, which is they are coming in to meet with us on March the 10th. So I'd ask that you please submit, I guess I'll use the word wish list again, of items that you would like to see us ask the commission to have discussion on and to put processes and places around, such as the examples that you. And if you could maybe send those into Carol so that I could have that when we meet with them, that would be much appreciated. Anything else on item 10-24? Okay, thank you very much. Michael, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let's move into the town administrator's report.